We're off to a hot start right now. Like, I feel like this is going to be good. You started to react to the report, which we'll talk about in a bit. And I stopped you because it was an electric reaction. I just wanted to like button that energy up and save it for later. All right, you're already prepped. So give me the quick rundown on Copy.ai, just because I've followed you from afar and I feel like I know what it does, but you obviously know much better than I do.
Yeah, so Copy.ai is a go-to-market AI platform that allows any member of the go-to-market team, marketing, sales, SDR, operations, finance, customer success, whatever, to basically open up your playbook to any page and codify that play using AI without having to be an AI expert. And that's the rub, and that's where most people typically go wrong, is like manipulating these LLMs is hard. And so defer the AI expertise to us and our platform. You retain your domain expertise and then make sure that your best practices are actually getting extended across your company. That is the value of our platform.
So were you a big believer in AI before you joined Copy.ai?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. I knew it was going to be a thing. I've been at Copy.ai since January, so I'm not like, I wasn't in this in 2020. But I sort of lost faith in the ChatGPT experience because I didn't know how to use it. And I went to ChatGPT and you see the blinking cursor and you're like, write me a blog post. And the blog post sucks. And you're like, AI. So once I actually saw Copy.ai and saw like that codification of a process where a content marketing person can go in and say, I've been doing SEO for a long time. Here is my process for writing a really solid SEO piece. Here's the research I do. Here's the brainstorming of the people also ask questions. Here's the other keywords I hit. Here's the pillar post outline that I do. On and on and on and on. And they can codify that. And now we, inside Copy.ai, we publish 3 blog posts a day because we have all of the processes codified. And so it's that type of thing that like really made me a believer in AI. I was like, oh, just like if you were building a website right now, would you go learn HTML?
No.
Of course not.
No, God, no.
Like, that'd be crazy. It would actually be irresponsible for you to think that that's how you have to go build a website. And AI is moving much faster than HTML did. So you don't need to be an AI expert to get value out of AI. And once I actually saw that and it clicked for me, I was like, this is the future. This is how every go-to-market team is going to function.
So how do you get your audience to have that same kind of click moment? Because many of them are like me, where you use ChatGPT a couple times and you're just, I don't get it. I don't know how to use this.
Yeah, so we show them basically in real time how to build what we call a workflow. And a workflow is basically a series of actions. And that action could be a prompt that you send to the LLM, or it could be an API integration with another system or something like that. We show them how easy it is to build a workflow and then to run that workflow. So given a keyword and given a transcript from my podcast or something like that, turn it into a long form blog post. Boom, boom, boom. 10 steps of the workflow, and you have everything you need. So every podcast episode you do now can become long form in the snap of the fingers. And once they see it and they're like, oh, that was easy. That's the light bulb moment. That's the aha moment. And then they start asking, well, can I do this? And what if we did that? Like, yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. And then basically just take down those use cases on the value journey.
So I got to think that the companies that you're selling into expect to see some sort of business case around this, or like, how do you quantify it? So without giving away the secret sauce, like, how do you do that and sell it to companies?
The big problem that we're solving, Mark, is this problem of go-to-market bloat. These teams, over the last few years in particular, so many tools, brought on so many specialists, are spending so much money, and it's yielding pretty disastrous results a lot of the time. And so the business case is relatively simple. It's like you're spending, or you have this cabal of freelancers and writers and agencies and all of these people that you're spending 5, sometimes 6 figures a month on all of these external, like,
my mind is blown.
It's I know, the 6 figures is crazy. But it's not uncommon to hear of a marketing team, mid-sized marketing team that's spending $25K a month on just outsourcing this kind of, frankly, like run rate content creation. What if you took the time to codify your process once, run it over and over again, and now you're getting 4 times the output for a quarter of the cost? It's a no-brainer. And so we have those types of, the cost out conversation happens a lot, but there's also the productivity stuff that ends up happening, especially with sales teams.
So talk about that. So how do you position that?
So, SDRs are a prime example of this. They, and I'm the biggest SDR
I know, that's why I asked.
In the world. And I'm by no means saying that companies don't need SDRs. I think that the role is evolving in a really useful way. The problem, and why so many folks have lost faith in the SDR model is because they've trained SDRs to do the wrong thing. They've trained them to do research. And all they do is like Google searches and throw together...
Tim Davidson ruined something again. What else is new? Sorry, keep going.
SDRs are just doing research that nobody ever ends up really ever using or looking at. And so the skill gap ends up being created between what an SDR is trained to do and what they need to do to be an effective sales or marketing person. There's a huge gap that exists there. So what if we, instead of having humans do all this research, let's outsource that to AI. And now the SDR is trained on how to execute on that research. And that closes the skill gap. So now you have a team of people that are much more efficient, much more productive, like generating 2 to 3 times as much pipeline per rep in like the first 90 days of a deployment. It's crazy.
Insane.
And then you're actually building a talent bench for whatever comes next in their career because they're doing things that are much more closely related to the domain they want to move into. And so that's the business case that we end up making. It's productivity, it's about pathing, it's about efficiency, it's everything under the sun.
All right, so we'll get back to the good stuff in a second. This is probably going to be more funny than good, maybe both. Craziest SDR memory that you have, because you grew up as an SDR, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Craziest memory.
That is appropriate, like worth sharing. Because I've seen responses and like people just get put on blast and they do not deserve it.
Yeah. I mean, I've made every single mistake you could possibly make. Like, I was the first SDR at a company. We were 6 people when I joined. And I ended up interviewing the president of the company who came and joined like 3 or 4 months after me. And one of his first things was like the old school way of doing lead gen and buying lists and everything. So he was like, we're going to spend $20,000 on this list of 6,000 people that are squarely in our ICP. And I was like, awesome, 6,000 leads, wonderful. And so we spent $20,000. We had $2 million in the bank. So like, that's not nothing. And we spent a lot of money to get a curated list. And I thought I was like, the hot... can I swear?
Yeah.
Hot shit. Like doing all the marketing automation.
We'll beat that out.
And like trying to get it all figured out. And I ended up sending them all a blank email. And then the next email on it called them all Jim. And then the third email was blank again. So I was like, I had to go back to my president and be like, so Frank, remember that $20,000 we spent?
Oh my
Here's
God.
the thing. Totally messed that up. So that was on me. And it's so easy to make those mistakes. But then the thing that sticks in my mind the most and why maybe I have so much empathy for SDRs is because...
It's the hardest job in B2B SaaS.
It's very hard. I hesitate to say anything is the hardest because like everybody has their cross to bear and all the rest. But it's certainly the one that gets beat up on the most.
Yes.
No doubt about that. And to that end,
yes.
I was reaching out to this guy and selling to a technical data audience. Not always the most friendly people in the world. And sent him, like, researched him, was following him for a couple weeks, like doing all the social selling stuff and write a really thoughtful note. And his response to me was 5 words: go die in a fire. I was like, great, all right. So you're not going to be a customer?
Oh my God. I've never heard anyone respond like that.
It was amazing.
Oh my God. So the SDR kind of model and just that role is changing more than it probably ever has before. Where do you see it going? I see you posting all the time about AI SDRs and whatnot. Give me your little crystal ball.
So there is not a buyer in the world that is asking for the buying process to be more robotic. There's not a single one.
We're clipping that.
And the problem is that a lot of, over the years and even now to today, sales teams are optimizing for how they want to sell instead of for how buyers want to buy. And that is forcing them to do things that they're trying to find silver bullets and that are never going to work. There is no silver bullet. If there was a silver bullet, we would all be doing it and then it would no longer be, like, it doesn't make any sense. And so the AI SDRs of the world are just introducing more roboticism into the selling process. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It's not what buyers want. It's not going to work. And the reason that this is such a problem is because these AI SDRs, they have reduced the SDR role to sending emails and booking meetings. And that is not what the SDR role is. It never has been. Unfortunately, it kind of became that with the rise of sales engagement technology and all the rest. It just became easy to smash the send button. But that's not what's going to sustain in the future. So the evolution of the role, do not outsource your strategy to AI. We want to codify strategies as best as we can and try and outsource a lot of the execution of those strategies to AI, but always have human, like QA, human on the back end. So the way I think about it is like, you've got a human that defines the strategy, or a group of humans. You outsource as much as you can to save time and efficiency, productivity, all the rest. And then there's human QA on the back end. So it's like this little AI sandwich with humans on both sides. It's delicious.
We're going to have a great graphic for that.
And that's what the SDR role is becoming. It's more strategic, it's much more thoughtful, it's much more creative because you have more time to be those three things: strategic, thoughtful, creative. And the mistake I think that a lot of people will make is say, oh, great, our SDRs don't need to spend 2 hours building an account plan. They can send more emails. No, that's not the goal here. The goal is to deliver information about how can we position our product or solution or whatever in a way that connects the dots so what matters to an account, what matters to a person, and how can a human deliver that human touch that shows that person that we understand who they are. And that's the role of the SDR. Now, if that's done well, a couple things are going to happen. One, that skill gap that we talked about is going to start to close because the SDR role is going to actually put the S back in SDR, which is sales. There's going to be more sales acumen and not just hitting send. So that's one really important outcome. And then the second outcome that I hope for is if we have more sales acumen from an SDR standpoint and your company has some sort of down market presence, why not give more of those run rate deals to an SDR and have a truer inside sales? So now, yes, generate pipeline for the enterprise team, but maybe be full cycle for the inside team. And that's how we're architecting our team at Copy.ai. We have 8 enterprise reps. They are focused on enterprise-sized companies. We have an SDR that's supporting them and generating pipeline, but he's also going to run the small deals. So that next time our VP of sales needs to hire an enterprise rep, farm from within.
You already know where to look. So we'll get into some more of the AI questions here in a bit, but you mentioned, and without looking at that, what buyers want. Like, what do your buyers want right now, and how are you selling in a way that gives your buyers what they want?
They want to be understood, and they want, at least for our buyers, and maybe this is more specific to me, but I think I'll talk more specifically.
Who is your buyer at the end of the day?
Yeah, so chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, CEOs, CFOs, like the C-suite is making this investment in this go-to-market AI platform because we're telling a broader story. We're not selling a single point solution because we don't want people to get into this point solution hell that they're in right now.
We're trying to get out of it.
We're all trying to get out of it. This is a big problem. The go-to-market bloat that I mentioned is you have like all these technologies. We have this one product that dots I's and crosses T's, and you're like, what? Why? This is crazy. We have technology to manage all of our SaaS technology. You're like, oh my God.
Where do we go wrong?
This is crazy. So we're trying to avoid that, and therefore we sell to the executive team. They're the buyers. And what they want is they want to buy technology and work with people that understand their strategic initiatives and the tech needs to support those strategic initiatives. So we are not selling an AI technology that helps you write better blog posts. That's not what we're doing. We're selling technology that helps you actually manage your customer acquisition cost and run a sustainable business. It's a totally different conversation. And so now we can understand, like, what are your hiring goals? What are your expansion goals? What products are you launching? And here's how we can support all those different things. And that's the type of positioning that is really hard to do. It takes finesse. It takes deep understanding. It's hard to connect those dots between the value prop you might see on our website and those initiatives that those companies are running. But that's the human element. And that's what great sales does. So that's how we're trying to, and that's what buyers want. They want somebody who understands what they're trying to make happen and shows them that they can help make that happen. And that's what sales has always been. But it's very easy to lose sight of, and it's very hard to do.
So AI is obviously moving faster than probably everything that we've ever dealt with in the past. How are you keeping up from like a competitive intel perspective? Like, what are you looking for in the market? How do you enable your sales team?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's very easy to get distracted. Like this point solution pops up over here. And now with this competitor was mentioned on this deal, like let's overreact to that. So first and foremost, we have a workflow. We created a workflow that basically says, what does the best competitive intelligence person do when they're researching an account and building a battle card? And so now anytime a rep needs something, they just put in the URL of that company and boom, they get a battle card 30 seconds later. It's like, it's insane. That's first of all. But probably a more important answer is like, this comes back to positioning. And we are a go-to-market AI platform. And so basically anytime we come across a competitor, like they're great for this. And if all you want to do is lead enrichment, like great. But if you really want a truer systematic approach to infusing AI across your entire go-to-market engine, you need to talk to us. And 10 times out of 10, people are like, oh yeah, we don't just want lead enrichment. We also want to power our outbound engine. And we want to do real account-based marketing. And we want to do deal coaching. And we want AI forecasting. We're like, great, let's figure out the right sequence to do those in. And we'll go take those down one at a time.
You mentioned real ABM, and I'm laughing because I used to work at a advertising company in the past. And
swapped out logos, called it ABM.
Well, just like this whole notion of, and this is no knock on Copy.ai or where I came from, you don't always need it, like an ABM platform to do ABM. Like, I'm doing ABM here at this event without a platform and without a budget like that. So I just laugh because people assume that you need to spend well into the six figures to light up display ads to target accounts that people are probably not even going to look at or click on.
People are just obsessed with finding things that no one will ever click on. Finding things that scale.
Yeah.
And that's like, you can't do, people say that they're doing ABM to 10,000 accounts. You're like,
no, you're advertising.
Yeah, right.
you're picking filters in LinkedIn and you're advertising to 10,000 accounts. That's not ABM.
Right.
I feel like we could talk about this for a while. All right, you mentioned the word overreaction, and when we started rolling, you kind of overreacted once you saw one of the findings in here. So we just released our first original research report the other day, and I wanted to stop that overreaction so we could actually catch it on camera right now. So show us what you saw and then why you kind of freaked out.
Yeah, there's no page number. So it's this page of what do buyers typically, where do they begin their research? And number one on the list with 54%, these numbers don't add up to 100, so I'm not exactly.
So what we learned, fair critique, the way that the question was worded was where, it's a multiple select question. So you can pick multiple answers of like when you start your search, choose as many of like these places that you look at. So a little bit of a learning for us in the second time around, but still that finding shocked me, I'd say, more than anything in the report.
So the thing that I was really surprised by is number one on the list, where do buyers typically begin their search, was with analyst reports. And I just cannot believe it. I have never talked to anybody that's
like, first,
I go to this, whatever, if it's Gartner or if it's Forrester or something. First, like, why?
Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand why people do that, especially because there's so much more information that's available now.
And years ago, maybe it made sense, not now.
Right, exactly. When, before information was really democratized and the analyst firms really were the keepers of opinion and things like that. It's like, great, okay, that makes a lot of sense, but why would... I don't understand why people go there first, because it's so transparently pay to play. That's the thing I don't understand. It's like, it's not organic. By definition, it's not organic. Like, here's our total economic impact report that we commissioned from Forrester. It's like, you commissioned it from Forrester.
Yes.
What do you expect them to say? Oh, the customers actually lost money when they invested in it. Like, no. Makes no sense.
You're going to cherry pick the 3 outliers of your customers that have the best performance, and it's going to spit out the made up number that you want it to see. And then you're like, yep.
Dude, Mark, I've been in these meetings.
I've done one too. Tell me about your experience doing it.
And they've been like, I have said to the Forrester analyst, I want my ROI to be above 500%. Because my competitor is over 500%, and I can't go back to my CEO and tell him I spent that $250,000 on this, and our ROI is worse than the competitors. And they're like, great. Tell us about a few other knobs to turn or levers to pull, or tell us about another customer you could go talk to. And I'm like, Jesus God, how is this legal? Like, it's so transparently off. I'm surprised that that's where so many people go. I expect that this is a trend that will start to flip pretty quickly. And there's this divide where I think about a lot of marketing. I'm influenced by a person named Christopher Lochhead, who, Category Pirates, and he wrote Play Bigger, co-wrote Play Bigger, and he's just a great thinker. And he has this line in the sand between like native analogs, people that grew up in an analog world, and native digitals, people who grew up in a digital world. I think the native analog people are the people that would be like, I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble and buy Consumer Reports and look things up there. Like, that's how I do research.
I'm laughing because that's how it used to be done.
That's how it used to be done. And I think those are the people that are probably still influenced or influenceable by those analyst reports versus the digital natives that are much more likely to do many of these other things, whether it's customer, like real customer evidence, which of course is still slanted in a certain way, but it's like not as pay to play. Or peer networks. And I think like picking up the phone, this is how I do my research.
So what's the last, you don't have to name the tool, but think of the last tool that you bought. How did you buy it?
Was the last.
So how did you buy it?
So it started with a ton of research on their site. Like, I cared the most about what they're saying, how they're positioning, how they're showing me that they have a depth of understanding about the problems that I have. So that's number one, spending a lot of time on their site and then talking to back channel references. Like looking at the logos on their site, looking at the CMOs of those companies, and then shooting them LinkedIn messages. Hey, 5 minutes, want to talk to you about Mutiny. Now, a lot of times the CMO may not have any real understanding of how they're using that type of solution, because I'm a little more in the weeds in a small company than somebody a larger company would be. But it's like, who on your team managed the deployment and implementation of this? Can I talk to them for 5 minutes? I just need to understand, is what they're saying true? And how do I get a bigger discount?
Probably the second detail is.
So those are my two. Like, I care about what is on their site and do they really understand my problems, and then do they have people that will be receptive to cold outreach from me, because that speaks volumes.
So when you say, do they really understand my problems?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what specifically are you looking for? Is it positioning and messaging that's like really clear and succinct? Like, what else is it?
That's basically it. It's that messaging, it's that positioning. How easy is it to understand versus how jargon filled and kind of BSy does it sound?
Yep.
And if I have, and engaging with the sales rep, I think is probably, if not, maybe they're not in order 1, 2, 3, but engaging with the rep is really important, because I want to be able to go to that sales rep and ask them as crazy a question as I have, and I want them to give me a good answer. A lot of times those answers are just links on their website. Oh yeah, we wrote a blog post about that. Great, send it to me. So it's that type of thing. Like, I want to be able to get basically any question that I have answered, or any question that I have answered about their capabilities as quickly as possible.
So one of the other things that we found in the report was that 57% of buyers struggle to find credible product and ROI stats. Why do you think that's the case?
Because no ROI stat is credible. I mean, like, you can't believe it. And every company is different. It's very, very difficult to say that the ROI at a 50-person company like I'm at is going to be the same as a 5,000-person company that somebody else. It doesn't make any sense. It's apples to oranges. So there's that. And then there's the second reason, which is these ROI stats are all manipulatable by,
you just told us.
By the person that's authoring the stat. So I understand it's important, and like you have to make the business case and things like that. But I've also been in the room buying software and selling software where the CFO looks at the business case slide with the ROI numbers and just totally throws it out. I was like, I don't care. Like, this has nothing to do with me. And so if it's not unique and bespoke to that company's process and forecasted outcomes, it's meaningless.
Can you elaborate on the process piece? Because I think that's really important.
The best sales reps get really entrenched in what the process is of doing the work or creating the outcomes that their technology supports. And so we can just keep using Mutiny as an example. So they spent a ton of time with our team and with our web agency to understand how are we thinking about personalization and experimentation. And then they created the roadmap for us, which was, here is what you need to do to make this deployment successful and effective. And so that is the business case. Like, oh, they understand what we're trying to do and why. They understand that we're moving from this PLG motion to a truer enterprise, tops down, B2B motion. And here's how they're going to help us on this pathway of doing that. They have domain expertise, of course, for their own technology, but they also have expertise on our use case, like our strategic initiatives. They have helped companies do this, make this transformation before. And that is the business case. That's what I care about. At no point do we talk about like how, whatever Figma, I don't even know if they're a customer, uses Mutiny, and here's the ROI that they've got, because I don't care. But what I do care about is that they understand what we're trying to do, and that they can map their solution to what matters most to me.
Last question, totally unplanned. Favorite Chris Lockhead moment that you've had after working with him?
So I'm lucky enough to consider the man a mentor. If you don't, like, I don't know, the audience, if you don't know him, he's a bit of a maniac.
Our audience should know him. I don't think they know. I know Devin, so I've heard by way of Devin some of his story.
Of course. He's not for everybody, but if you can get over the gruff sort of exterior, he's brilliant. Like, he's a very different thinker, and a lot of times that different thinking is communicated in somewhat of a crass way. You have to kind of
that's kind of what I've heard.
Get used to that, get over that. But I went to his house in Santa Cruz, compound house in Santa Cruz, California. And Santa Cruz is already a bit of a trippy little town. But I was going there and we were planning some category creation type stuff and planning what we call a lightning strike, which is like a big marketing moment where we're trying to make a big splash. And I had my little notebook out and I was like, I'm going to learn from this 3-time CMO and I'm ready to rock and roll here. And the first thing, like, got to his compound, he's like, hey, my chickens are all loose. We got to get them back in the coop. I was like, what? All right. Put away this notebook, wrangled, like, literally, like, I'm out there wrangling chickens back into a coop, putting them back in, and like didn't need the notebook the rest of the day. So went on a sailboat, took e-bikes around the cliffs in Santa Cruz.
Amazing.
Just like, this is...
I was hoping for an answer like that. Getting chickens in the coop was not on my bingo card, so that was awesome.
There you go.
Well, thank you for this. This was good.